Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
Thank you. We'll leave it there. The line isn't great, but thank you very much for talking to us, Sir Ian Gilmore, Chairman of the Alcohol Health Alliance, former President of the Royal College of Physicians. John in Cheam, do you think this will change habits?
Yes, it will change habits in the boardroom of the Ford Motor Company. I'm sure they're cracking open the champagne as we speak. The sale of white vans in Scotland is going to go through the roof because this stuff will be stolen.
I wondered where you were taking this.
It will be sold on the sink estates in Scotland because that's what people are going to do. They're not going to pay these silly prices. The incidents of muggings and handbag snatching and break-ins, again, will go through the roof, as people will go out and steal a few quid to fuel their uncontrollable drink habit. This complete idiot you've just had on, who seems to think he's got the health of the nation in his hands, hasn't thought this through. Is he prepared to see crime and old age pensioners mugged and people slashed with knives and acid thrown in their faces for a few quid to fuel this habit? No, he hasn't thought about it.
Well, they're not. The change in price is... It's significant if you're very poor, but to say they're silly prices is a bit of overstatement.
It's a significant increase in prices if you're poor.
You think this just is punitive against the poor, do you?
No, I don't think it's punitive against the poor. I think it's punitive against pure common sense. You're in charge of your life. If you choose to flush it down the drain by drinking too much alcohol, that's your decision. You don't need a twerp like you've just had on to sit and hold your hand.
Don't be offensive towards him, Johns. You know, the Supreme Court has come to this decision, not Ian Gilmore.
I don't care what the Supreme Court did. Alcohol of this type will always be sold from the back of vans when the price gets too much. It happened with cigarettes in certain parts. Every time the government steps in and says, we are going to control what you do, even though you can't help doing it, the incidence of crime is going to increase.
All right, John, thanks for your call, John in Cheam. Andy's called from Nottingham and a fan from Norbury to carry on our conversation about just how deep the interference in our affairs Russia's cyber games are. Andy, hello.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, what did you want to say?
Where's the evidence? Evidence, facts, evidence. I see no evidence. All I hear is Russia, 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 Russia. They ain't coming. Where's the evidence?
What do you mean they ain't coming? We don't think they're coming, do we?
No, but, you know, everything's all Russia, 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 Russia. Where's the evidence that they're... I want to see some evidence and facts, as your last caller just said. I don't see anything. I just don't see anything. And because Theresa May said something...
Do you mean...
Said there was weapons of destruction?
Yeah. Do you mean specifically on cyberspace interference?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because there's evidence in Crimea, isn't there? There's evidence of what they did in Crimea. There's evidence of what they've been doing in Ukraine. That's hard evidence.
Yeah. I really don't. I think what we need to do deep dives, because Ukraine was an elected government that was a coup d'etat, removed on a coup d'etat, just because of the guy at the time said, "Now, you know what? We don't want to join the EU." That was a coup d'etat, plain and simple. You know, we need to get deep dive into all this stuff that we're talking about, because it's very, very dangerous for our future children and their grandchildren, that we're just putting out these kind of memes of ideas about what things are. We need the deep dive, we need the facts, we need the evidence, get everything out in the open. Let's have real considered debate with constructive reasoning and thinking about what we're talking about. And I know it's very difficult in a sort of Twitter-style sort of phone-in show like this, where we've only got a minute or so. But come on, this is just ludicrous, absolute ludicrous. I want to see the evidence and the facts of all this stuff.
So if they're making it, you clearly think the government is making this up. Why are they? Why?
Without a shadow of a doubt. This has been going on for generations, decades, generations this has been going on.
But why in this instance? Why this and why now?
Well, why now? Well, actually, because it's a guy called Donald Trump. They're trying to link with a guy called Putin and maybe somebody in Korea. And because we don't like them, because we're not winning anymore, because we don't want to win, how can we propagate this Cold War into a hot war? I know what. Anything that we can do, let's attack it with Russia.
What are you talking about?
This is nonsense.
Well, you're just spewing words at me, Andy. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that there just seems to be this constant thread about Russia. And I'm thinking, I've had enough of this. Where is the evidence? You mentioned Comey before. Okay, well, Comey, he played both sides. And the testimony against Clinton's emails, he played both sides. Even the DNC and the Republicans distanced themselves from him. This is all stuff trying to put...
What do you mean he played both sides? His job isn't to serve either side. His job is to serve America when he was head of the FBI.
Yeah, okay, if you believe that. I mean, lots of false documents there on that the FBI website. It's nonsense. It's all nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I want to see some evidence about any of this stuff that links anybody to Russia.
Let's be sure to ring again, Andy, when the Electoral Commission has reported back after its investigations and after the Culture Select Committee in the Commons has got its evidence from Twitter and from Facebook and the various other lines of inquiry going on. Let's talk about it again then. Thank you for your call. Andy in Nottingham remains to be convinced that Vladimir Putin is a threat to anything. Let me just read some of the texts and tweets that are coming in. I'm going to leave a lot of them out because they are so anti-Muslim. There's so much anti-Muslim discrimination in them. Of course, you can have a view on Islamist terror. Of course, you can have a view on the number of Muslims in this country. Of course you can. But that's not the nature of the tweets and texts that I'm leaving out, just so you know. Now, DSG Group says on Twitter, this woman, my guest, Dr. Zubaydah Haq, we spoke to a moment ago, is absolutely bang on, talking about the word Islamophobia and how a preferred term on the part of the Runnymede Trust is anti-Muslim discrimination or anti-Muslim racism. It's unconscious and stereotypes against people of certain ethnicities that you associate with Islam. It is still racism. Others disagree. They don't like the term racism in relation to this. Elijah from Camberwell, your guest's use of the word racism is incorrect. Islam is not a race. It isn't racist to state facts. Islam teaches that if a woman does not wear a veil, she is a harlot. Maybe we're a bit fussy, but we don't want to live amongst men who believe we deserve to be raped because we're not covering up. That's the kind of text that I'm talking about. Islam is totally incompatible with Western culture, says Lisa. I refer you, Lisa, to the Tesco ad, if I may. Ronnie in Watford, hello.
Wow, great program. I was sitting in a car with the missus and I had to come off the phone and she said, right, let's go. And all of a sudden he rang. So I've got to listen to the missus at the end of the day.
You do?
Right. As I said, great program. I don't think there's... Let me start again. When black people first came to this country in the 50s and the 60s, they went through hell. And I don't think Muslims are going through anything considering what we went through. And I don't even think it's racism. Yeah? Mm-hmm. They're going through things which is mild. We are a moderate country, and I'm going to say this, I'm a black man, so there can't be any racism in this, right? I don't think they're going through anything. We're a moderate country. Any other country, if you go to a Muslim country, you have to go by the Muslim rules, and you have to do certain things the Muslim way. We need to stop, I don't even know if that's the right word. I don't think it's racism or Muslim thing. I don't really believe that.
You don't believe that Muslims are being discriminated against?
It's mild, man. Look.
Well, how do you know it's mild? I mean, Ronnie, can I just say something? I really welcome your call. I think you're making important points because you and your relatives have lived things in this country that I and mine haven't. So, I'm all ears. But you can't sit and say you know what's happening to Muslims because you're not with them all the time, for a start, any more than I am, and you're not a Muslim. So this isn't to denigrate or grade what's happening to you versus what's happening to them. It's just to say that they're allowed to explain their own experience, aren't they?
I live in a multicultural area, and there's a lot of Muslims there, mm-hmm. right? And yeah, they are going through some stuff, but I think it's mild. I remember years ago, my parents used to tell me they went on a march, and the son was shouting out racism things from out the window. This is well-known facts. We were killed and things like that. They're not going through that in this country.
Well, not true. I mean, there have been, but Ronnie, there have been trials of for people who've been. Well, and people being prosecuted and jailed for the murder of Muslim shopkeepers. Remember the story in Scotland? Because they don't like Muslims, so they went and killed someone. But Muslims are being killed because of hatred.
You have Christians all over the world.
No, I know.
In these other countries being killed because of their faith.
Yeah, Ronnie, but you're saying, look over there. I'm saying, look here, look at this. We're looking at this for an hour.
I don't think, and my heart goes out for them because I know I'm over 50, so I well know what it's like to have racism. I know what it's like to be
sure you do.
beaten as a black man because of my colour, right? And I don't think they're going through as much as what we've been through.
Well, I can't say whether they are or they are not, and I don't think we can ever measure precisely whether they are or they are not, which is why. But Ronnie, thank you very much for your call. I'm not sure measuring one against the other achieves much, actually. What happened to you and your relatives and many black people in Britain was and is appalling. But this question of what's happening to Muslims in particular at the moment, because of Islamophobia, because of our fears around Islamism, because of out-and-out discrimination and racism sometimes, if the text that we're getting is anything to go by, if the texts we are getting in are anything to go by, there is a lot of Muslim hating and Muslim discrimination in this country. And that's what I want to focus on just for an hour. Jay, thank you for your call. Thank you for your call, Jay, because an awful lot of people ringing in, and you won't get on air, are just ringing in to berate Muslims, which is wrong. You know, feel free to berate a particular Muslim, like the one that plants bombs or the one that committed another crime, fine. But Muslims generally, excuse me, not on. You won't get through, so don't bother calling. Keith in Durham, hello.
Hi there.
Fire away,
Hello?
Keith. I'm having a small coughing fit, so you fire away.
Oh, hi there.
Okay. Save me from myself, Keith.
That's cool. I just heard you not long before say everybody knows what racism is. And I was a bit confused that, Islam and race are being talked. I think one of your other callers mentioned this and said, it's not a race. And I know for a fact it's not, because I've seen Muslims, in Bosnia, I've seen them in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they all look very different. So that's job one. They are not, it's a belief system. It isn't a skin colour or, shape of nose, eyes, etc. But I'm going to be totally fair with religion here and tell you that it's all utter nonsense. And it has spent the best part of 2,000 years trying to convince everybody that a man lives in the sky. Okay, well, that's a discussion for another day, I think, Keith, that last bit. But thank you very much for your call.
Ken's in Newcastle. Ken, what do you think?
Well, first of all, James, Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. He is not a mere prophet, as the Muslims falsely teach. The greatest miracle in history, James, is that God became a man and dwelt amongst us.
Come off it. What about Leicester City winning the league?
We have entered the mocking season, and you're one of the biggest mockers of Jesus that I hear. You continually mock Christianity, my friend.
Give me an example.
Well, today your tone is a mocking tone.
No. I'm mocking people who take offence. Ken. Just so you're clear, because I wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself further. I'm mocking people who take offence at a sausage roll. It's got nothing to do with Christianity.
You have total disregard to who Jesus is, my friend. I say that with sadness. This nation is now totally anti-Christ and a heathen nation. And I used to be a Roman Catholic, but I wasn't a Christian.
What are you now, Ken? What are you now? What
believe in Jesus?
What does God say about sausage rolls?
God says He now commands all men everywhere to repent because we mock
No,
Jesus.
but specifically, what does he say? What does he say about sausage rolls?
Well, I wouldn't answer a foolish question like that. You're a very foolish man.
You've rung me, Ken. That ship's already sailed, mate. What is? I mean, just generally, what's the guidance on sausage rolls?
Stand before Jesus and give an account of your life when you die, my friend, and you won't be mocking about sausage rolls.
Are there sausage rolls in heaven?
Listen. It is appointed unto man to die once, but after this the judgment. You will give an account. We all give an account of our life to God. Don't mock Jesus. He came here and died, shed his blood for your sins on the cross.
Are there any sausage rolls in heaven?
Do you mock Jesus Christ, my friend?
Are there any... I haven't mocked Jesus Christ.
You're a mocker of God.
I'm a mocker of people who can be offended by a sausage roll, Kenneth. Now tell me, are there any sausage rolls in heaven?
Mr. Ferrari is also a mocker of Jesus, and he also claims to be a Christian.
That's true. He is going to burn in hell.
He falsely claims to be a Christian.
I suppose...
Listen, God's judgment is coming to this nation.
Hallelujah!
The judgment of God.
I'll tell you what.
You won't be mocking on that
Let's park on a point of agreement, shall we?
Go ahead.
It would be impossible to get a cold sausage roll in hell.
Listen, friend, hell is a place of torment where you are headed at this very moment because you're not born again.
There, my friends, is Christian love. Christian love in all its sausage roll-flavoured glory. Ken, go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Let's go to Eva Lipman, who's calling us from Maidenhead in Berkshire. Hello, Eva.
Hello.
Hi, yes, what did you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to say that it is a question of what level is actual sexual harassment at. Because I don't believe there's a woman over 70 who hasn't had their bottom patted or their knee patted or an arm flung about their shoulder. And it was normal in my youth. It was absolutely normal. We never walked past a building site without being whistled at. It was all perfectly safe. They were up on the scaffolding. They didn't bother us. And in fact, we expected it. It was fun. It was fine. It was okay. Now, obviously, real sexual harassment, that is a completely different matter. But casual touching on non-private parts, that's okay. I really don't understand what's got into the young women today.
What do you think has got into the young women of today, then? Because they're saying that actually, you know, when they go to a place of work, it isn't okay for somebody to pat them on the bum.
Well, on the odd occasion it is, and let's face it, we all knew perfectly well how to stop it. It was... We just dealt with it.
I'll just read you a tweet that's come in. Isn't Parliament simply a place of work? Same rules apply as any other large organisations. These are just things that aren't appropriate in a place of work, Eva.
Well, it depends what generation you're from. My generation, it happened. And as I said, we dealt with it. We knew how to stop it. That was fine. And of course, as I said, if it was real sexual harassment, you knew how to deal with that as well. And if the
how would you deal with it if it was real? And what would you classify as real sexual harassment?
Well, if it was real inappropriate touching or inappropriate suggestions and this sort of thing,
and what would you do?
Not right.
Yeah, what would you do?
But it wasn't. For the most part, as I said, the odd pat on the bottom or the odd, touching, as long as it wasn't on a private part.
Okay. All right, Eva. Yes, you made that point. Let's hear what others think. 03700 100 444. This is an email from Michael Pincher, who says a practical way to curb uninvited attention in the workplace would be for women to forego makeup. From pouting lips, rosy cheeks to sultry eyes, the ability for women to go about in disguise, thus giving a false illusion of their true self, may contribute to some men getting the wrong idea. Another here, I'm a 75-year-old woman, and yes, for years we had to put up with catcalling, wolf whistling, inappropriate remarks, groping and touching. If we objected, we were called frigid or lesbian. Feminists who drew attention to this behaviour were derided and mocked. This male behaviour was not acceptable 10, 15, 20 or 50 years ago. It's just that men got away with it. Who's that saying in the background? I agree with that. Is that Dr. Stuart Russell? Are you?
That's me.
Hello. Yeah, what did you want to say?
Well, I think the problem is that this hysteria has been caused really by 20, 30 years of feminism who've taken this mythology on that women are oppressed. They're victims of this male patriarchy. And so now what they're doing is using these mostly trivial incidents to further their grab on power to take it from where it normally resides. Now, human nature, if you look at things through the human nature and evolution, women's role and men's role are different. Women are there to do what we can't do. They're there to bear the next generation, to nurture them. Very, very important thing. And we're there to do the dirtier jobs, running governments, fighting wars, reading the football results out on the TV. And what's happened is we're being usurped. And I don't understand why it is.
What do you
don't object?
Well, I mean, you're objecting, and there will be others getting in touch with the programme. Dr. Russell, what are you a doctor of, actually?
I'm a scientist.
A scientist, okay.
May I also
can I ask you a question, and then, of course, you can come back. I'm not cutting you off. But then are you suggesting that it is your biological right to walk through the labs or the university campus or wherever it is that you do your work, and it is your right, because of the biological imperative that you have been given, to touch a woman without asking, or to pat her on the bum, or to do any of those things? Is that your right?
No, I've never done that.
No, but I'm not asking whether you've done it. I'm asking whether it follows that it is the imperative and therefore you're right.
It's part of most fellows' rather gauche attempts at courting, and many fellows are a bit clumsy. And, I think the women should be a little bit more.
Well, I mean, does courting not suggest that you want a relationship with somebody, whereas a lot of these encounters are about sex, aren't they?
Well, they're not. They're not
or
about
power, or about
no.
reminding somebody you're in charge.
No, they're not. They're about a bit of fun, a bit of laddish behaviour, and it's often a prelude to courtship. Could I just make another point?
Yeah.
This business about something that occurred 15, 20 years ago, was it acceptable then? Is it not acceptable now? Look at the number of male homosexuals who were convicted before the Sexual Offences Act and are now being given pardons. So it seems to work quite well for that situation, doesn't it?
OK, thank you for your call. 03700 100 444. Lots and lots coming in on this. As I say, we're going to take a couple of calls as well on the voting age. If that's what you want to talk about, you are welcome to. This here, a practical... no, we've done that one. I think this is a witch hunt, says Margaret Cox. I used to enjoy getting wolf whistles. When I stopped getting them, I assumed I was just looking old. Ridiculous to learn it's now illegal. Humans, like other animals, have sexual drives. A harmless wolf whistle makes a woman feel she's attractive. It used to brighten my day. Let's then move on. Let's talk about something else, shall we? This 2-week deadline that's been given by Michel Barnier. Tell us how much cash you're stumping up. 2 weeks you've got to tell us, and we are not talking about trade until you tell us. What do we make of this? 03700 100 444 is the number to call. Keith Smeaton calling us from Stoke Newington. Hello there, Keith.
Oh, hi, yes, afternoon. I think it's a hell of a cheek that this representative of this dictatorship called the EU should start telling us again what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. I mean, the point I want to make is that the people who were on the show who were arguing that we should remain in the EU only believe life consists, or is only worthwhile while you're in the EU for the last 40 years. The trouble is they don't look at the history going back to 1600, where the Brits were in international trading competition with the Northern Europeans, the French and the Dutch and the Portuguese. Well, we beat them hands down on international trade. Therefore, they're terrified of us, and we can do it again. We can beat them all. Because life does exist outside the EU, and it's much better than it is now.
So as far as sort of international trade is concerned, you say, right, OK, forget them, walk away, fall back on WTO rules, we'll be fine.
Well, why not? I mean, we did it before. I mean, the point is that the EU need us more than they need us. They sell more goods to us than we sell to them, and so it's going to damage them if they can't continue their trade. So they're going to have to come to compromise, and I think we need to stand firm on that point and just state our position and let them decide what they want to do, because we don't want to be dictated by them. They're going to have to come to a compromise.
OK, thank you very much. This agreeing with you from John Workman, who says Michel Barnier is holding the UK to ransom, and in all cases of ransom you do not give in to their demands, as they will see your weakness and ask for more. We should call their bluff, walk away with no deal. After all, we import far more from them than they buy from us. Hard Brexits. Let's go. Take our chance. We have the rest of the world to deal with. Let's take another call on this. Chris Robson is calling us from Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. Now, so let's just sort of find out which direction you're coming from. May I ask what you voted in the referendum?
I voted to leave.
Okay, lovely. And what do you make of the negotiations so far and this 2-week deadline?
Right, well, this is why I'm ringing. An earlier caller had a reference to the 17th century. My reference is much shorter than that, about 40 years ago, when we had an economic union. It was called the EEC. And because we have a life now lived on acronyms, the economic element has seemed to have been dropped. Now, until the annual audit of accounts can be approved, I don't see why we should be paying any more.
Mm-hmm. So, at the moment, the way things stand, we sort of, and again, this is all sort of rune reading, really, because these talks are going on, a lot of them behind closed doors, and some of what is said is perhaps a negotiating position, but we are given to understand that the EU is expecting about 60 billion in reparations for us leaving. Britain is saying, well, we've got 20 billion on the table, we might have a little bit more wriggle room, and there's a massive gulf between those two offers. You are saying, actually, just stay where you are and wait it out. If this is a game of chicken, they're going to dodge first.
Well, in a way, yes. We might have some short-term commitment to pay some more, but overall, I don't think we should be held to ransom for a vast amount of money because of what I said earlier about the accounts and the approval of the accounts. Accountants are a relatively conservative group, and they don't make decisions like this not to approve accounts without just cause.
OK, Chris, thank you very much.
I know he's a moron.